loads of Skype noises. I'll sort that out in a moment. First of all, screen share.
Just
Welcome to your awakening. Please take care as your reality is adjusted.
I always forget that bloody mute button. Welcome back, folks. Welcome back once again. Another edition, another broadcast of Sol Excalibre on this moon day evening. The sun's still just above the horizon. Stop screen share now. Hopefully I clicked everything, the right buttons, the right pages. I muted the YouTube stream. Yes, hello to everyone in the chat room. I'll come back to mention that in a minute. I'll try and remember. I keep saying I'm going to come back to certain points and then I digress and I forget and I never conclude the point, which is a bad habit that I'm going to try and fix. But first of all, yeah, the usual statements: like, subscribe, share, do all that usual thing, or dislike, whatever, your particular fancy is. YouTube doesn't differentiate between the thumbs up or the thumbs down. It just counts the interactions with the video. So the only people you might be influencing are viewers looking at the view count on the video and seeing that kind of collective outpouring of whether somebody likes or dislikes something. But anyway, yes, another edition of Sol Excalibre. So I've digressed already. We haven't even been going that long. This week's subtitle in the info box underneath. And now the cummings-uppance to crack the ice wall. Or maybe to further crack the ice wall or chip away at that ice wall. Yeah, the cummings-uppance, Dominic Cummings. I'm only going to mention this in passing before moving into other stuff based on that. But there's some other things to say first before we get into the main point I sort of plucked out of this week's events and incidences and blah, blah, blah. There's other stuff I want to show as well. Play some videos in a bit. The trolls are demonstrating their desperation already. They go, you must reply. You must take the bait, fishy, fishy. Take the bait, fishy, fishy. Games playing that's going on at the moment is further and further, week after week, comment after comment is proving my point. For those people, if you're new to watching these shows and you can see there's a lot of stuff going backwards and forwards in the chats and in the comments that probably seems like, what the hell's all this about? So is this some kind of inside joke or something that's going on? It might seem like there is something going on in the background where a lot of it is not exactly recent knowledge. It stretches back to things from a while ago, years ago, really, in effect. But the way they're playing this game out clearly exposes the kind of stuff that I've been talking about recently, and how during this time of the infodemic, they are rolling out the standard SOPs, standard operating procedures, the repetition of methodologies that they think will work to derail what's going on here or to character assassinate me, so that in that manner that they think works, they think everybody's in that hive mind, collective group mindset. So if the group dislikes me, that means everything I say, guilt by association fallacy, is automatically dismissed. This is classic methodology of the system. Yeah, and I mentioned in broadcast I did on, it was Friday, wasn't it? Friday evening. And I just want to say, I'm sorry if for some people Maybe you got the wrong idea from the title of the video. It was called "Don't Inhale Your Own Gas," and in brackets, it's a blast from the past. And it was only after the fact, I haven't read through all of the chat from the live chat that was there, but it was after the fact that I thought maybe some people thought it was something to do with wearing masks. And a lot of the information that's been coming out about how, you know, inhaling your own carbon is not exactly good for you. And depending on the kind of mask you've got and whatever, whether it's just a filter or whether it's got the little expulsion valve on it and stuff like that. But anyway, yeah, I'm sorry if that title wasn't exactly super clear, but in the subtitle, in the info box for that broadcast, you'll see I've clearly said this is me talking about recent comments and how it relates to the infodemic and methodologies used to disrupt social groups and gatherings and any movement of information that is disliked by the system for whatever reason. If it's against the official narrative, then they want to curtail its movement and stop it spreading. Talk about the virus. The truth is the real virus. That's what they're trying to stop happening. And that doesn't mean I'm claiming that I'm all, everything I ever do is all just about, absolute truth and I know everything because I'm so clever, blah, blah, blah. As I explained on the Friday broadcast, but just to be clear, to reiterate this point, if you go back through all my work, you'll find that I have repeatedly, consistently said, I am not perfect. I do not claim to know everything. I use the classic quote from Socrates of I know nothing but the fact of my ignorance on a regular basis. It's in the description box, in the info box. So this constant accusation of, oh, Cookie, you think you're so clever, you think you know everything, you're always right, is a clear and obvious repetition of a straw man fallacy. And by the fact that they keep trying to use that fallacy to influence your thinking, just demonstrates the methodology that they're using. Their own energy is proving my point week after week, comment after comment. I've fed out the rope, they're hanging themselves. All those that claim they have some kind of supposed evidence against me about this, that, and the other, let them put it out there. This afternoon, I tried to have a conversation with Kip on Skype. It didn't exactly go very well in the end. At one point, halfway through, I said to him, like, mate, you might want to record this now, because I thought he's probably going to want to use this in some fashion. And I'd hoped that during the conversation that we could have got to at least some kind of reconciliation of agreeing to disagree. And as I've done all along, ever since I disassociated from him and I carried on doing my own thing and he went off doing his own thing, and you can go back through the work and see that on my channel so you can check it in context. When I talked to the audience, I spoke publicly about the fact of, like, I don't agree with what he's doing anymore. There's more that I disagree with than I agree with, so therefore I move on my own way. That's always been my principle. I let him get on with his stuff. I'm not into trolling and that kind of shadow action to try and disrupt what people are doing. I just let them do their thing, and then the public decides. Which ideas do you think are valid? Which information do you think is useful, helpful, empowering, whatever? That's up to you to decide. Although I recommend a lot of other people's work, I recommend a lot of other channels, I big up a lot of other channels. So again, that constant implied accusation that I think I'm the best of the best, delusions of grandeur, is demonstrably bollocks. Yet another straw man fallacy attempt. But I regularly recommend other people's work, their video content and their articles and things like that, yeah? And I appreciate and I say thank you to people who put out great content, yeah, that I find useful. And even if I don't agree with what they're saying 100%, that's that basis of don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. If you agree with more than you disagree with, then make use, make benefit, make good work out of the stuff that is worth your time, the stuff that you agree with and you find useful and helpful and empowering and enlightening. Leave the other stuff. You say, no, thank you, I don't need that on my plate. You know, like the Dormouse said, feed your head. Here's your plate of mind food. Which bits do you think are healthy for you, good for you, worth you trying? See what flavour that is. Do you like it? No, well, don't have it next time then. Move on to a different selection. You could use lots of poetic analogies and metaphors to describe that kind of thing. But yeah, apologies for maybe the title could have been worded differently so people didn't think it was something about masks or whatever, because there's a lot of good information coming out now and the data is building up that more medical practitioners agree that masks are not healthy for the general populace to be wearing the way that they're being told by the governments. But that point of view, they'll claim that's just their point of view. It's like, mate, the majority of doctors agree with that. So it's not just a point of view, is it? Yeah. The evidence demonstrates that for the majority of us, we do not need to wear a mask, and wearing them is unhealthy for extended periods of time. If you're a surgeon working for a few hours in a surgery, having that mask on is not really going to do you any damage during that time. But telling the public to go about their day or near enough 24/7 wearing a mask, that is going to be unhealthy. And there's lots of information coming out about that kind of thing now. There's lots of more medical practitioners putting their name, their self behind their words and saying, no, what the governments are telling people is wrong. It's bad for them. So it is a point and a pile of information that's worth talking about at the moment. But that's not what my broadcast was about on Friday. I was hoping that by approaching it the way I did, where I tried to avoid pointing at any direct individuals and using names and whatever, because I don't want to extend this shit. I was trying to point out how it could be, possibility that some of this stuff is happening because there are people out there whose job it is to interfere with things like this. Because this kind of shit is not just being directed at me, you know, it's happening all across the internet because of the infodemic. And that's the point I was trying to get across on Friday. So at the moment, after I'd had that conversation with Kip, I think he's uploaded some of the recording onto his channel. So you can go and listen to that. I'm not sure how much of it is going to make sense to people who have no knowledge about the whole situation. Or it's been a couple of years at least since that whole stuff happened, and it's asking the public to make judgment on something where they don't have all the information. And to stretch out all the information would just be to perpetuate the phantom that it's been turned into. Because again, that's a methodology used by certain groups out there to disrupt social groups and gatherings. They look for a point of friction, and then like a wedge, they try to get in on that point of friction and amplify it and inflame it and throw fuel on it and encourage the two different sides to fight. And then once that fighting starts, the social group starts falling apart because everybody starts falling out with each other. Again, that's what I was trying to show on Friday with talking about the various methodologies. And I only went into a little bit. There's a whole lot more information out there that you can look at about this kind of thing. But the way I approached it was to try and be careful, to be honest about the fact that I can't give you any evidence to say I know for a fact that this person works for such and such and is paid by the agency or the government or the whatever, because I don't have evidence like that would provide that kind of proof. But I can talk about how the methodologies work and the possibilities that stuff like that does happen. That's not saying it's an absolute that I know that it is happening because of those reasons. It's talking about possibilities and the ways they are manipulated. And, think about the plausible deniability cover of, oh no, that's not what's happening, Cookie. You're having delusions. You're being gaslit into thinking you've got delusions, because that's what gaslighting means, to deny the reality of the victim. Again, I did try to explain that on Friday. But yeah, if you're really interested in all that kind of YouTube enders, drama bullshit, go and have a listen to Kip's video. And, this is going to end up potentially perpetuating the situation. But at the time, I told him you might want to start recording this because I thought this is probably what they're going to want to do. So here you go. Here's the rope. Carry on, mate. You want to keep adding to this shit, go for it. That's up to you. I'm not going to get into further details of that situation unless all the people involved are willing to join into a group conversation and it's discussed as a group, which is a habit I've developed over the years of being in this environment and trying to deal with those methodologies, as in dealing with stopping those methodologies from working. And one of the best ways I've figured out to deal with that kind of implied accusation of manipulation and psychic driving, that's what it comes down to, because I'm being accused of hypnotizing everybody else in the group and making them all do certain things and telling them they have to believe this, that, and the other, and demanding that they only talk to some people and not other people and shit like that. Again, gaslighting that they're doing, trying to deny the reality of what's been going on. But anyway, the method I've learned to try and deal with a lot of that bullshit is to get people together in groups so that we're all witness to what each other is saying. We're all each other's witnesses. If you get a group of several people together, then later on down the line, if somebody from somewhere comes along and says, "Oh, he said so and so about you," you can ask all the other 6 people in that group conversation and say, "Is that what he said? I don't remember him saying that." And they can all go, "I remember witnessing that," or "I remember witnessing that he did not say that." So getting people together as a group and having that discussion, I'm up for it. I suggested it, but I was denied. You have been denied. Ignorance is strength. No, we don't want that. Anyway, that's apologising about maybe that misinterpretation from Friday night's episode. But to get back to one of the other points that I raised in that episode, which has been something that comes up all the time, it's ubiquitous in this environment when you're talking about certain subjects and threads of information. And that's the them and they, or them, they, there. We use that as like a title and a nomenclature, a terminology to refer to the people who think they are the powers that be and who seem to create these plans and agendas that then are trickled down through a compartmentalized system such that the world is being controlled by the puppet masters in the shadows. And for some people, they find it difficult to deal with a concept or a chunk of information because it uses references like them, they, their, rather than giving specific names for individuals involved. And I did sort of mention that on Friday about, I'll talk about the them, they thing, because that was one of the common accusations that gets thrown my direction is, "Oh, Cookie, you're talking about them, they. Who are them? Who are they? What you on about? You're just sort of pointing at shadows." And I did say on Friday that I'd come back to that point, but I didn't remember to do it at the time anyway. But I remembered after the fact, and I thought, make a note of that. I need to come back to that point and address it. Because it is something that comes up a lot consistently. It's one of those constant sort of hurdles or sticking points for many people, why they find some information difficult and why they have a tendency to not want to hear some information, or they'd rather, they don't like what's being sold at that booth, so they go to the next booth to see something else. They don't like the way it's displayed or branded or labeled or whatever. Them, they, their label rather than individual names. So first of all, I think it's worth playing a little something for you that was put up recently by a channel that I've recommended a few times, and I will keep recommending because she does great work. She does a lot of good research and she puts the videos together well and concisely presents information, which is so much better than I could do because I waffle and I ramble around the point a lot of the times because that's the way I do things. That's the way I've found I'm good at. So I do it that way. Some people call that storytelling. Yeah, it's a way of crafting a story, but I'm not exactly telling fiction. I'm talking about truth and facts and information that's available out to us out there. I'm not just plucking it randomly out the air like a lot of people seem to like accusing us of. And I'm saying us because it's not just me. There's lots of other people in this online environment that talk about these kind of things. But anyway, shut up, Cookie, and play the video. It's only 5 minutes, and I think it's worth hearing all of it. So I'm going to play all of it. This is a video from Please Stop the Ride that she uploaded recently, and it's a clip of a guy that I mentioned on Friday, a guy called Cass Sunstein. I usually refer to him as Crass Sunstain, but that's getting a bit too esoteric for now. Let's just concentrate on the academic and referenceable information and concepts that he brings up in this little clip. So I will shut up and I will play the clip for
as small interventions that can move communities and sometimes whole populations. They can move nations. A warning is a nudge. A reminder is a nudge. When we think of the problems that are being faced today, social distancing, staying at home, washing your hands, these are things where nudges are essential, either as a means for enforcing a prohibition or a mandate, or as an alternative to a prohibition and a mandate. There is a framework all over the world now. It's called the EAST framework. It's very simple. E means easy, A means attractive, S means social, and T means timely. And if you remember anything from these remarks, I hope it's the letters E and S, where E means easy and S means social. Such successes as we're observing in many nations are made possible because people find it easy to do what is the safer thing, whether it's finding a mask or staying home or finding a way to wash their hands. The S in the EAST framework is even better. It is social. And the idea here is that people really care what the social norm is. There's evidence that suggests people want to protect themselves, to be sure. But if they think they're endangering others, then their attention really is triggered. They don't want to endanger other members of their community. So to signal there's a new social norm here and people are generally following it is a life-saving strategy. The best idea, I think, in social science in the last 10 years points to the scarcity of the human mind. That for all of us, we can't focus on everything. And under conditions of poverty or illness or distress, the amount of mind capacity we have to devote to problems, it's just limited. And the pandemic has been increasing the scarcity problem for populations all over the world. Okay, here's a little idea. This is like a small idea as an approach to a large question. There's recent evidence suggesting that while people are influenced by the existing social norm, they are in some cases even more influenced by what they say is the emerging or coming social norm. So if people think, most people are washing their hands a lot, or most people are staying home, that's effective. But if people are told people are increasingly washing their hands, or people are starting to, let's say, go out more, that can be very, very effective. So media can be extremely helpful. So some media is independent of government, some media is involved in government, and in either case, it can be extremely effective, and in many countries, it has been extremely effective in publicizing risks and good strategies. So you can think of media as uh, in the Olympic Games of nudging, media gets either bronze, silver, or gold. They are very much involved. They enter into the World Cup of nudging, the media. And if they're working with government or if they're working separately, they can be essential, both to helping people under very difficult conditions and in helping people to transition out of the circumstances that many countries are now in. There are norms developing now that could turn into habits that stay or that could go away as soon as the threat is over. The way, if there's a habit, and you can give your preferred examples of habits that parents have with children or the teachers have with students or that we all have with one another, that are there for centuries. We have these habits. The word considerateness captures many of these habits. And for people in positions of authority to say, keep with this. Remember, often remembering hard times can be create humility and also can create an enduring memory of the good things that the hard times brought out.
So there you have it. Thanks to Camille for finding that clip and putting it together and sharing it on her channel. Please go and subscribe to. I'll put the link in the side chat to that video clip so you can find a channel from there. And the reason I wanted to share that, two reasons. It fitted quite well. Two, remember that? The V? I pointed out the other day that, that could also be interpreted as the two choices. You've been given a choice and go one way or the other, left path or the right path. Yeah. So does it mean the number 5 when you see them all doing that, like Churchill and Crowley and whatever? Are they talking about the fifth age, the age of Horus, that they're trying to bring in through their way of influencing people? Or are they talking about putting people on that point of choice where you choose to go along with this shit or you choose something else? And please note that in that video, maybe I should have left it up as a screen share to show. Hang on, I'll backtrack it just a few moments just so I can show you this one element. Could just be a possibility, just to keep reiterating that point in case people misinterpret what I'm saying. It could be, we've got all the flashy, there we go. It could be just my interpretation, but please note behind him on the wall are 3 lights and 3 windows. In the Freemasonic orders, the 3 windows have significance, and so would 3 lights. And the fact that you have these kind of exterior lights, that's what they look like. They're the kind of lights that you'd have outside on a porch or on an outbuilding or something like that. But they're obviously in a room. He's certainly not outside. You can see the outside through the windows. So he's inside a room, but he's got 3 exterior lights mounted on a wall above 3 windows. Why on earth would you do that? That's like way beyond necessity. Yeah, so it's obviously about making some kind of statement, whether it's just a fashion statement or something else, whatever. But it's just another one of those elements that's there, visible, viewable, that I wanted to demonstrate about this kind of stuff. And to bring it back round to why sharing that particular video in reference to the them, they, there? Well, part of the problem of the question of who do you mean by them, Cookie? Why do you keep saying them and they and that kind of like generalized label? That's because in the structure of the hierarchy, there are multiple people that could be culpable for one element within the whole structure. Who is culpable for the main roots of all the various shit that we could attribute to them, the agendas and stuff like that? That's where you get higher up that hierarchy, and it gets more and more into the shadows, such that who those individuals are becomes somewhat unknowable. Certainly to me, it's unknowable. I haven't been able to find out names of people that are that high up the pyramid that you can see how the root connects in through them. But as you go down the pyramid and you start getting into the layers of the compartmentalized structure that creates the illusion of diversity and free choice or multiple choice. Well, what selection do you want for slavery? You have multiple choice. I'll have that slave master or that slave master. Anyway, digressing. As you work your way down, some of the players, the actors, the puppets that they use to perform a lot of these agendas, or who may think they're acting independently, like some of the big celebrity names who think, they're celebrities in and of their own rights. They weren't placed there. Oh, no, no, no. Wasn't these shadowy forces that influenced them gaining that position? Oh, no, 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 no. There's quite a few in various departments, not just celebrity. Think of politics and industry and wherever. And there's various departments where, you will encounter some individuals like that. They think they're doing a lot of the stuff they're doing based off their own desires and goals, and we could call them narcissistic or psychopathic. I was going to say psychosocial then, but tripping over it. Psychopathic in some of the elements of what they're doing. But that's looking at just that one individual. But in the point about the name and the they, there, etc., they, them, there, some of the people start to become visible. Some of them you can start to trace them. And as further down the pyramid you go, the more visible they become. I remember ages ago, probably a couple of years ago, when doing these broadcasts, the Sol Excalibre broadcasts, and one of the points I tried to make one week is how once you learn that a lot of what goes on is based on an inversion, as in a reversal. This, like the government loves to say, oh, we're doing this, or we're implementing all these changes to your world to keep you safe. And the word safe is actually an inversion. It means controlled. Yeah, so their version of safe equals control. And you've got some of the other classics like ignorance is strength. It's an inversion. Ignorance is not strength, it's a weakness. And some of the more modern, up-to-date ones, I know Jeff always likes to use this as an example because it is such a good one. Vulnerability is strength. It's like that's an inversion of the definition of vulnerability. Yeah, so the system likes to utilize inversions to mess with us and to misdirect our learning such that we end up with a concept of reality that is back to front in many ways. Yeah. Like the digital world is not reality. Reality is out there. I'm pointing out my window. The sun's going to be going down soon. I might have to stick a light on, but the virtual world is not reality. But at the moment, for a lot of people, they've been drip, drip, drip this idea that you can have your new reality, the new normal, where you spend most of your life in the virtual world, in the virtual space, where you can be whoever you want, that kind of magic effect of the kaleidoscope. But no, some become visible, and the further down the pyramid you get, the more visible they become and the more traceable they become. But at the same time, the power and the scale of culpability becomes less. You see how that works? It's like, yeah, they're more visible to you, so you could trace them and you could say, oh, I found the name, it's Joe Bloggs. Right, what's he culpable for? What can we do him for? Oh, he's only guilty of this and this. Defraud or defrauding his office, or incompetence in office, stuff like that. If you're talking about a politician or a councillor or something, so the level of culpability in relation to the impact of the agendas that are being dictated from further up the pyramid is really small. So if you think that dealing with that one guy, Joe Bloggs, who's culpable of incompetence in office, is going to derail or change the direction that those major threads are leading to, you're deluding yourself. His involvement in the rollout of the changes of the world, because the world's changing every day, every moment. The world changes. It's just what direction are we moving in with these changes? His involvement is to a lesser, real minor degree. So therefore, yeah, you're allowed to find him because the upper echelons know they're safe in the shadows, where their culpability will never be prosecuted. You'll never be able to hold them accountable because they're not visible to you. You can't trace them. You can't find their names. So we often end up using this label of them, they, their, because there are a multitude of people that could be held culpable for their participation in the various agendas and the shit things that happen to people that lead to them wanting to come and talk in this kind of environment about the shit that's going on in the world and what can we do about it. But you can get some names and you can actually get quite a way up that pyramid. You can get quite high, and some people out there have dug really, really deep. Because it's an inversion, we're told that the pyramid goes up. This is what I mentioned one of the prior episodes I did ages ago, that method of inversion. We are convinced, the public is convinced through the systems of control, through education and indoctrination and the media, we are convinced that the pyramid goes upwards and that your level of success is gauged by how high up the pyramid you go. But they rely on inversion. So if they tell us the pyramid is upwards, no, reverse that. The pyramid goes downwards. It's a descent. You want more power. Remembering what I said about in the lower levels of the pyramid, you get lesser power, but you're less culpable of participating in the badness. You want more power, you get more culpability, which is why they do things like deliberately entice people through their fallibility. They try to play on their worst desires. They offer them whatever they want in the world, including, they want children. They got that kind of inclination. They want to murder people. They want to drink adrenochrome, whatever it is, yeah, you'll get more power, but you descend further into the shadows. You get further and further away from public view and being held accountable. But we can find some names. And some of those names are people like the one I just showed you, Cass Sunstein. We could have a long semantic argument about, well, just what exactly is he culpable of? How much is he consciously aware of the ramifications or results of his actions? What kind of level of culpability do we attribute to that level of conscious participation? Yeah, this is kind of shit like the Nuremberg trials, where it was like, okay, tell us what you did during the war. And if you say just following orders, well, that doesn't mean you weren't a free will individual making decisions and actions off your own free will choices. Even if you were being influenced by others around you, it's still your choice. So using the defense of just following orders doesn't work. But we could reel off a load of names. And again, I'm saying we in the plural because I know there's lots of other people talk about these kind of things online, so it's not just me. I could reel off a list of names. Start with Cass Sunstein, another popular one at the moment. I'll put this link in the side chat as well. Bill Gates. I recommend Corbett Report, latest video, the part 4 of 4, because he's done a little series on Billy Bob recently. So it's 4 parts about Bill Gates. This is the last one, the last part 4 of 4. And if you want another name, there's another name. So when I say them or they, you could include him in that list of who I mean when I say them and they. And you could have a long laundry list of other names, and it would get very long because there are now a lot of names that are known. And that's part of the problem. It's part of just a process of dialogue that rather than sitting here and expending 2 hours or probably longer of just saying one name after another, and then at the end saying, did this, and then I show you a document about the agendas that are going on at the moment, or that's not helpful, is it? We need to start talking about the agendas and how they're being implemented and whether and how there's things we can do about it, rather than just sitting there going, oh, this name and 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 this. So instead, most people resort to the simplification, but the useful simplification within the conversation of saying them or they or their. So it becomes a bit of a, it's a non-argument, but I know it's a hurdle that a lot of people get stuck on because they have this still lingering belief. I think for many people, it's when you're in the process of bargaining, when you start to realize the system is a pile of bullshit. And that's why tonight the subtitle was, and now the cummings-uppance of the crack in the ice wall. Because the actions of Dominic Cummings recently have demonstrated, yet again, provided a really good demonstration for the public of the UK and public around the world who see what's happening in the UK, that the very politicians who espouse this new normal doctrine that you must all walk around wearing masks and social distance and you can only go out when you're given permission and all these other guidelines that they are trying to impose on us, they themselves don't believe it and think they are exempt from them. And they will use bullshit generalizations and semantic arguments to try and get out of the culpability of being caught out when they are caught out. So Dominic Cummings' attitude recently about being caught is that fuck you, public, it's nothing to do with you. In other words, I'm a politician. I've got a golden ticket into the club, so therefore I can do these things. It's only you plebs, you peasants, you peons that have to obey the guidelines. I do whatever the fuck I want. And no, I don't believe in the virus, because if I did, I wouldn't be doing those actions that I'm now being called out for. And the same with Neil Ferguson only a few weeks ago. That was one chip in the ice wall. That was one strike of the ice pick into that ice wall. When I'm referring to the ice wall, it's a metaphor for the barrier of denial that most people are in when they have this concept that the system is there to look after them and help them and care for them in some fashion. It's not. Now, Dominic's comeuppance, Cummings-uppance, is another strike of that ice pick into the ice wall. And for a lot of people, they will move in that process of grieving, because when the lie of the system is revealed to you, then your perception, your concept of your reality changes. It changes because that thing that you used to believe existed has just been proven to be nothing, to be a phantasm, to be a dead entity, a non thing. So, in effect, it's died. So, you've just been descended into a grieving process. You are grieving for the loss of the way you used to live because now your world is different. This is why my channel, for however many years now, all it says on the about page is that little phrase, welcome to your awakening. Please stay calm as your reality is adjusted. The reason it says please stay calm is not because you just have to accept what's being done to you, done around you. No, it's because the system propagates off you reacting in anger, violence, fear. You know, if you try and attack the thing, you feed it more energy, it gets stronger. It's like the fucking Hulk. The more you piss it off, the stronger it gets. So you're not going to beat it in a physical conflict. And that applies to the judicial system as well. So if you're still in that bargaining phase where you have this belief, you're still trying to find a way of appeasing the system and at the same time keeping hold of what you used to have, that world that you loved, you've just been told that it's dead, that it's not real. You're trying to come up with some way to bring it back. So just like somebody in a denial process, sorry, a grieving process, they've gone through the denial, they've gone through the anger, and they've reached the bargaining phase. You think about when you just get the news that somebody you knew, a good friend, has just died, and the first reaction is, "No, I don't believe it." Then you get angry. You're like, "How did this happen? Who let it happen? Who was the culprit? Who caused it to happen? Why has it happened?" And then you get to bargaining. Are you sure he's dead? Are you sure nothing could be done? Why was nothing done? And who are we going to prosecute for culpability of causing the accident that led to their death or whatever? Bargaining is that process where you start to try and figure out a deal that can be made so you get to keep what you used to have before you get to the acceptance of no, they have actually gone. Yeah, they passed on. It's gone. Time to move forward. Yeah, so for a lot of people, they get to that bargaining phase and they think, well, if we just had the names of these people, then we could lay charges against them. We could take them through the judicial system. We could prosecute them. They could be held culpable. They could be locked up, serve time, and then the world would be better. We'd get control over the political system again, and we'll get our guys in there, and our guys are okay, and the system will be back to normal, and we can have our old world back again. But that is a bargaining reaction. It's not reality. This system was not made for your benefit. The system is not broken. It's working as intended. The harder it grinds, the more it reveals itself to the public. And Dominic's cummings-uppance is a further chip in that ice wall of denial. More people will be waking up after seeing that news in the headlines and going, hang on a minute, that cheeky git, and he's not even going to get prosecuted. What's going on there? I know, I think it was this morning, there was, I can't remember the headline properly, but one of the headlines was that a police department is possibly going to investigate what he's been up to. But we'll see how it goes. Yeah? Don't hold your breath, folks, because this political system alone, I've made this point many times in the past, in the UK, the political system has been around in the form that it is now for approximately 200 years. If you think you can change the system from the inside, then in the last 200 years, all those supposedly super clever people who went into politics haven't managed to change the system, have they? That's like banging your head against a wall for 200 years, thinking that, like, oh yeah, if we just get the right guy on the inside, they'll be able to change things from the inside and fix it and it will be better. No, because it's not broken. It's just doing something that you didn't realize it was doing until somebody came along and pointed out some shit for you that made you go, oh, fuck, I've been believing in a lie. I've been believing in a construct. I've been believing in an illusionist's trick. That's not reality. And unfortunately, when you get faced with reality, for a lot of people, it causes them to stumble because it's a shock, like getting that phone call to say, hey, your mate's died. Yeah, in the same manner, it's a sudden shock. So you get that kind of defensive reaction and you get that demand for something to be done. And then you get that attempt at creating a new deal. So, oh, can we have the old world back, but only if we do these certain things? And if we obey the rules, we can still have that old world. And bargaining. If we can get the names, can we fix the problem by holding those names accountable and taking them through the court and blah, blah, blah? It's not going to work. It's not the way to approach the problem. It's not the way the problem's going to be fixed. And I'm not trying to claim that I've got all the answers and I know how to fix everything and blah, blah, blah. No, it's just one thing I can see is that approaching this problem with that expectation is just another self-delusion in that bargaining phase. So, reeling off a list of names, if people want to, just type some names in the chat. If there's a name that you've found along the way or multiple names, just put them in the chat now so that everybody can see that, yes, there are a whole bunch of names that we can refer to and we can say, well, yeah, they're probably culpable for something. They need to be fully investigated. If you start going back in history, then you'll find a lot of names where the evidence is so obvious that there is pretty much no question. Yeah, they were culpable in different ways for different crimes and blah, 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 but it's historical. But it reveals a precedent that smashes through the delusion that a lot of people have that, oh, well, it's not happening now. It can't be happening now. You know, when we were kids, politicians were noble. I can't remember exactly how the lyrics of that song go. You know, sunscreen. Sorry. You know, when we were young, we thought politicians were noble. No, they've never been fucking noble. And the system corrupts. So that if they want to gain more power, they have to become more corrupt. So it ends up self-perpetuating itself because that's part of the magic trick that they set up a long, long time ago. The system is an Ouroboros. It feeds upon the energy that we give it so that it never goes away. You keep giving it energy and it just keeps going round and round and round and round. So many different social groups, social movements over the decades and centuries, different ways people have tried to approach dealing with the system, trying to change it from the inside, trying to physically, violently change it. And they end up just putting another face on the throne and the whole shit just starts again. And round and round and round it goes. If you want some backing for that, look into the French Revolution and the what was it called? Not the Dread Scourge, the Red Scourge or something like that. But when you get the character Robespierre and the trials of the so-called aristocracy descending to just absolute ridiculousness, and people are getting tried and executed for just, a neighbor didn't like the way they smelt one day, which I'm laughing about it now because I wasn't there suffering at the time from it. But if you look into that kind of history, you can see how that attempt to use physical violence against the system, it doesn't work. You just make it stronger and the whole process just starts again. And you end up with a new king on the throne and the killing carries on, the sacrifice carries on. So yeah, that's why I use the terminology them, they, their, or some of why I do it. And if you want to, like I said, if you want to put names in the side chat, go for it, please do, because I think, it will help for some people. Maybe you'll see names that you haven't thought of or heard about before. Maybe you'll see ones that is just like, like Rothschild and Rockefeller, You know, they're quite reliable sort of names to throw shit at. You know, Red Shield, Rothschild actually means Red Shield, which is blood shield, which is why they're a visible face quite high up the pyramid, not truly totally at the top, but quite high up. And they're one of the highest levels where you get to actually see their faces and know about them. Yeah, the ones that were above them are further into the shadows and you can't quite see them. They're sort of in the background. But as another link that sort of adds to that point, I mentioned Bill Gates, but really graceful put up a video a few days ago that further expounds on that and talks about people behind Bill Gates. This is a group called the Bain Foundation, which I thought was quite an interesting coincidence, if you think it's a coincidence, whatever. Just the concept, because of the character from DC Comics in Batman, the Bane, Bane. You know, think of the English definition of the word Bane. What is the bane of something? It is like the thing that kills the said subject. You know, he was the bane of me. In other words, he was the one that destroyed me. But the foundation or the corporation is called Bain, as in Bain. Like you do get some spellings of Bane that are spelt that way. But yeah, she does a sort of exploration of who they are and their backing of the Gates family, Bill Gates in particular, and how they're interlinked into other areas, other groups, other individuals, and they provide financial, I don't know, fluidity to those other groups. You know, they provide finances to those other interests, and they help generate finances like a corporate entity would. And it demonstrates another level of the pyramid of compartmentalized control. You know, Bill Gates is in many ways just a front man. He's like a flesh puppet avatar for a bigger agenda of other individuals and groups that he's filtering through him to the public receiver of perception. And they demonstrate the fear, the false evidence appearing real to the public. You know, the media, like in the Cass Sunstein clip where he mentions about the media is the outlet that they use to project fear at the public to then influence them en masse to go certain directions in their decision thinking, in their decision making. And as he clearly stated, they know that when you put people into a state of fear, their rational thinking is suspended. They rely more on their emotional inner drives, their core drives, and they react with a fight and flight response of survival, which means if you just even give them the suggestion that it's dangerous outside, but they'll be safe as long as they stay inside, then that emotional thinking process will jump straight to the decision that equals safety, or what they're being told equals safety. Completely bypasses any rational questioning of what do you mean not safe outside? Why is it not safe outside? What evidence have you got to show that? Show me some proof, please. I want to hear various experts from all different points of perspective on this question, debating over why we should or should not believe this, or if there is any validity to this information. No, bypass. Just I need to be safe. I need to survive. And they say to survive, I stay inside. So I stay inside. They know this full well, and they use the media to project that FEAR, false evidence appearing real, so that for a lot of people, I do agree. You know, some people have said, you know, not everybody out here is in fear, and I know I'm using generalizations to describe a situation. So it's fair enough. It's this isn't targeting everyone out there. A lot of people can see through the fear, or are, for whatever their reasons, not succumbing to the fear that is being projected at them. But that's what the system relies on, to steer the mass of the people. So that's how your society is built, because it follows the norms, which is basically the things that have been accepted by the largest majority. Therefore, they tend to be accepted by the whole society. It has a ripple effect. But we get into a stage where the deliberate abusing of others in various forms, which includes trying to, influence people in the public by attacking them psychologically. That's abuse. Gaslighting people is abuse. Gaslighting another individual is abuse, psychological abuse. So whenever Mr. Sunstein is talking about how, oh yeah, we use the media to send a particular story that is meant to nudge the public's thinking, following the knowledge that we have under cognitive behavior manipulation. He's admitting that they gaslight the public to make them make certain decisions, to make them go a certain direction in their thinking. That's gaslighting. That's abuse. So you've got a spokesman for the system who writes papers who for the system, who is used as a reference expert by the system to claim legitimacy and to give them some kind of academic credibility, who knowingly makes use of mass media and other forms like education and social groups and things like that, which don't have to be run by the government. They can be third party independent groups and individuals. They know that that kind of thing can influence public decision, and they do it, which means they are admitting that they actively abuse their own population, because gaslighting is abuse. Gaslighting is psychological abuse. So you want names and culpability and, revealing how the system actually messes with people to influence them and blah, blah, blah. There you go. But it's for discussion purposes. It's often more useful to use generalized labels like them and talk about how they have this mass media influence on people that causes people to believe the false evidence appearing real, or to succumb to genuine fear because of that saturation influence of the media all around them and the compliance behavior of other people who've already succumbed to the fear, and it creates a feedback loop effect so that they, oh well, everybody else is doing it, and it becomes like Invasion of the Body Snatchers, where you end up just pretending to go along with it because you see everybody else around you doing it. That then is really making a hole in that ice wall for a lot of people. And there is a surge of energy that is building up, because the further the system grinds down to try and control what is happening, to try and stem that rising energy, because they want to control which direction the energy goes. They want to steer the movement of the dragon. They're not prepared to just let it be and do its thing and allow people to make their own progression. They have to have a control on that fountain of creation. So they try and steer it in a certain direction. But in doing so, they have to tighten their grip around it like a faucet. The jet is coming out at such a force, they have to tighten the faucet more and more and more to keep control of it. And that tightening creates more and more revelation for everyone seeing it, through the examples of things like Neil Ferguson and Dominic Cummings-uppance. By the fact that they demonstrate, and that statement from Cass Sunstein, by the fact that they demonstrate that they themselves don't believe the false evidence appearing real, that means more people look at that false evidence appearing real and going, hang on a minute, that's false evidence appearing real. What's going on here? Why are they doing this to us? And then they begin the tumbling down the rabbit hole, and they start asking more and more questions. And the process of development begins, because once you start to accept that that old illusion is just that, it's an illusion, it's dead, it's deceased, you need to move on from that, then you'll start building your new life. Just like, again, when you experience a sudden death in your extended family or your friend circle, you go through that process until in the end, as you start to deal with the reality of, yep, they're gone, you start getting on with your own stuff again. And I'm not talking about necessarily selfish kind of point of view, but you start moving forward for your own self again. You're not fixating on trying to somehow bring them back to life like a zombie because you just need them to be with you. That is the real selfishness, trying to hold on to something that's gone. I know that, that can become quite a cliche in terms of, a lot of so-called gurus and whatever over the years. So you got to learn to accept when things are gone. Yeah. The only guaranteed thing in reality is change. The only constant is change, and everything is impermanent. There is the absolute foundational element of reality that it is impermanent. You're constantly surrounded by it. Everything changes, everything moves on eventually. The energy goes somewhere else. Where are you going to steer that energy to? Or are you going to let them, there, take control of the flow of your energy and steer it to benefit themselves, to build their pyramid so that they can still sit up there at the top and enjoy all that lovely whatever? Well, I say lovely. If you're going down into that descent, a lot of what they do is not lovely. And I don't want any part of it, which is why I'm quite happy to not be in their position. They can keep their fucking illusions of power. And that brings me to one other link I'll put in the chat, which hopefully may be helpful for some people. This is from Larkin Rose. I think he would call himself an anarchist. So, maybe you don't necessarily agree with him on some of that kind of stuff. You might not necessarily agree with his politics. But if you want to hear a really good presentation, a good spoken, what could I call it, explanation or revealing of the reality that you are not experiencing this alone. You are not in isolation the way the system wants to think you are, locked away in your home in isolation from everyone else. There's a lot more people seeing this thing for what it is now and experiencing that process of revelation. I'm not talking about Christian stuff, but just revelation that the system is messing with them. And that is a process of development beginning. So it's how you use that energy moving on from there. So I'd recommend his video to listen to. You watch, it's him on video as it were. But yeah, give that a listen if you're feeling somewhat, like you're on your own in all this stuff that you're witnessing and feeling like this can't be right. What's going on here? And then to hang on, need screen share again, to finally sort of wrap up my rambling monologue for this evening. I thought it's just perfect suited for the Frank Zappa quote. As more and more things are occurring as the days and the weeks tick by, things like Dominic Cummings-uppance and his, obvious flouting of the rules of the guidelines that's chipping away at that ice wall for so many more people. And eventually they're going to see the tyranny of the brick wall that the system always resorts to when you reveal it for what it is. Just like so many others in the past have shown, and people do show now every day, somewhere around the world, somebody ends up in a situation where it reveals the tyranny of the system. But as Frank Zappa put it in his quote so well, I'll read it out. Quote, "The illusion of freedom will continue as long as it's profitable to continue the illusion. At the point where the illusion becomes too expensive to maintain, they will just take down the scenery, they will pull back the curtains, they will move the tables and chairs out of the way, and you will see the brick wall at the back of the theatre." End quote. And that brick wall is the tyranny of the system saying, you will do what we want or else. And that's their only defense. They've lost all their illusions because the theatre, the show, has fallen apart. The actors don't know their lines anymore. Nobody knows which part of the play they're supposed to be telling the public. It's just become a chaotic mess on the stage. So they've given up and they've all walked off the theatre, and all the decoration has been taken away. And what do you see? The brick wall. To now, you have that opportunity going, right, okay, yeah, I see the brick wall. What do I do now? Maybe I create my own entertainment. Maybe I build my own theatre. Maybe I do something else instead. But you now have that opportunity to start making choices for yourself, because the system's not going to change what it is. It's not. And if we keep feeding it, then it's just going to carry on. It will survive this period of disruption because it will grip so tightly onto its control that it will resort to absolute tyranny if you take it that far. What's the quote from the Matrix movie where he's talking to the architect guy who sort of represents the software of the sentient AI, and he says, like, there are levels of existence that we would accept. That's their attitude because they think they want to live forever. So there are levels of existence that they will accept just so that they can carry on existing. And if that level of existence equals everybody else will be subjected to absolute tyranny and abject horror slavery, then they'll do that because they're so determined. They're so obsessed with staying here, with being attached, with keeping control of everything and carrying on existing forever. I thought that was a good quote, really. Highly appropriate at the moment. Now the sun has definitely gone down. I'm going to need to put the light on in a moment. Don't let them, Bob Marley, don't let them fool you. There are other choices, and you can make that main choice to start directing your own energy. And that doesn't mean you have to just immediately shut everything out and go and live up a mountain and, eat berries on the side of the mountain and make your own clothes out of blooming beaver arseholes or whatever. No, again, that's a common misconception, and it's a common bullshit line that's often thrown at people like myself who talk about these kind of subjects. You do what you can with what you've got where you are. I think that was a Roosevelt quote, as far as I remember. Do what you can with what you've got where you are. Those little changes all add up. You don't have to be the new Messiah. You don't have to be Neo. You don't have to be Gandhi. You don't have to be name your personal chosen favorite messianic figure, insert here. All the little things we do add up. And when the majority of people start going a different direction, the shape of society will change and the system will have to react to that, because the system's main concern is survival. That's all they care about, is carrying on existing. So you keep going your way, as long as they're still getting, their bit of sort of sense of luxury or something, the sense of this physical, materialistic playground that they want to stay in, then they'll keep doing their thing. But it doesn't have to be that way for everybody. I believe in free will choice. If some people want to turn themselves into robots because they're under some kind of delusion that will give them eternal life and they can stay here in this playground forever, that's their choice. But if they try to force that onto the rest of the population of the world through trickery, through deception, through disingenuous manipulation, psychological abuse, and indoctrination, then no, no, sorry. I will not be doing that, and I'll be saying this kind of stuff to people so that hopefully they will make good choices for themselves as well and be forewarned about that kind of potentiality. It is about each reclaiming their sovereignty, their authorship to make those choices for themselves. That kind of end of the system as well, just to sort of caveat myself and make this clear, because I know there'll be some people that try to create a misinterpretation. The end of the system. I'm not talking about everything being literally physically destroyed. Many things that are beneficial to us as social beings, because we are social beings, which is why they've deliberately done the social distancing thing. Remember what I said about inversion? They're telling you to do something that's unhealthy for you, but labeling it as something healthy. But many things that are helpful, useful, healthy for us within society and the way we live and share the world with each other, live within and share the world with each other, can and will still carry on. There are many different ways that we can do those things that don't require a centralized, tyrannical, technocratic government that dominates everybody, including dominating their thinking, invading their cognitive liberty and policing their very thoughts. And there's plenty of evidence throughout history that this kind of stuff can happen. Don't believe the bullshit or the deliberate misinterpretation of things like the word anarchy and anarchism. Although true, pure anarchy may be a utopian ideal, the closer we get to it, the less government we'll have. So therefore, the less of the shit that we get subjected to, thanks to those people who think they're in power and manipulate those wheels of government such that they profit for themselves. Take a breath. That will reduce. So the less government there is, the more freedoms you will have. See how it all adds up, makes sense? Their inversion is to drag us towards a centralized super government that dominates everything you do. The other choice is an absolute minimalist government, if any at all, yeah, that doesn't do that. To me, it seems pretty obvious what game they're playing here. They're trying to do their inversion to persuade you that their version, the super centralized bullshit, is healthy and good, and you really want it. Everybody loves it. Join in. Come on, you'll be one of the group. You'll be one of the hive minds. You will be assimilated. Whereas the reality is of what would be good, beneficial, helpful, healthy, uh, conducive to creative growth is the other direction, the opposite of what they're suggesting. Along those lines, one more mention of a video that Society of the Spectacle linked for me the other day. And I thought they did this so well. This is a really good example of a couple in their vehicle, in their home, and they end up with the police turning up trying to tell them that they're not allowed to be there because because COVID, just because COVID. Yeah, and it's the conversation between them and the coppers who are trying to do them in some fashion, create joinder with them so that then they can be fined or even possibly arrested or whatever. And it's how the couple converse with those police. And it's, if you've never looked at or listened to this kind of information before, you probably find it quite enlightening, in a very good way. Yeah. But it is a good demonstration of how it does not need to be that direction of the hard tyranny that the system insists upon, because they're just, yeah, whatever. I could rant about it too long. It's been long enough already. Give that a listen if you got the time. Give them a thumbs up, because I think they, made a really good example of how to do it, rather than often what a lot of what you'll find on the internet, on YouTube in particular, is people having verbal punch ups with police. You know, it's like, oh, you're the police, therefore you represent the Babylon. You're the enemy, so I'll have verbal fisticuffs with you, mate, and then that'll prove how my ideas are right and destroying the system. Whoa, you're not. You're just dealing with somebody who's working within the system, who's right at the bottom level, nearly at the bottom where you are in the pyramid. So their power and culpability in relation to the big thing, what's going on here, is minimal. You better talking to them in such a way, dealing with them in such a way where hopefully you plant a few seeds and you help them become a peace officer, not a corporate enforcer. There's a big difference. We're a peace constable, you know, back to that old Pelian oath and stuff like that. But anyway, I think I've ranted enough. Hopefully I've made the point about Dominic's cummings-uppance. I'm going to I think I screenshot. Yeah, I did show that. And a shout out to Aid Hardy as well on Aid Hardy Free Speech channel. I just put this one last link in. This was his explanation of why he had to take down Dr. Adil's videos. But if you check his channel via that link, he's been putting up a lot of good documentaries and other movie files, video files on his channel recently. So go and check it out. There might be some stuff on there that you've never seen before because he's uploading a lot of older documentaries that are worth people's time. So again, examples of how this information can still keep moving forward. People can be making decisions that will help, you know, steer you away, steer all of us, because you're not living in a vacuum. You know, steer us all away from the bullshit that they're trying to push us into.
Absolutely, cooking. Yeah.
Let me just turn the light on, and feel free to say.
Go on. Yeah, no, I just yeah, while you go and switch the light on. Yeah, there's a lot of good creators out there. You know, and you can tell the ones that are good. You should be able to anyway. It's not that hard. You should be able to see what's good, what's bad out there. It's you know, if you just have a normal sense of normality or whatever. I don't know, but yeah, that's Cass Sunstein, man. He talks some absolute shit, doesn't he? I mean, the fact that he said that, if you heard that little clip, I'd lost the sound, unfortunately, in that clip a little bit. Yeah, if something happened, my light came on and it went on mute on my pad, and I didn't realise. I know that come on, but
that's a bit of a freaky coincidence.
Strange. And when it came back on, it was he was talking about turning normal behaviour into habits, which was like, whoa! It's like, here we go. You know, there's huge one there. You know, yeah.
Cognitive behaviour psychology.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he's popped up, like you say, a few times with his stuff, so I'll have to listen to the rest of that. I'll have to listen to that back because I did miss a minute or so of it.
I don't think I've got the document on this hard drive. I think I mentioned this the other week as well, the mind space document.
Yeah,
because that's primarily based on cognitive behavioral therapy.
Yeah.
So if you want to know the kind of thing, you know, we're referencing and what he's referencing when he's saying that stuff in the clip, check out that mind space. I'll type it in the chat because I know some people can't understand my accent.
That was a massive Big Brother experiment back in the day.
Look for mindspace.pdf. You should be able to come across it on the internet. It's not a hidden document or anything like that. It's there. It's one of them things that they put out because, you know, it's academic documentation, isn't it?
Yeah, and you know, these guys have all the letters and the professorships and all the bells and whistles, and then just, you know, demanding, you know, or suggesting that this is just going to be the norm, you know. As we said, it's and turning the habitual behavior. People get used to it; they become used to it, so that's how it becomes normal again. If you know what I mean. It's like the new normal. It's, you know, we've mentioned this before in previous chats. It's abnormal. It's just what it is. It's not the new normal. You can't have both. Just like you can't have the social and the distance at the same time. It's just all this word fucking with you. So that's how they're pulling it, and the Tavistock is mainly pushing this big time. That them lot with all the phrases and all the words that they've used over the past 3-4 months now, heavily using the media as well as they're pushing constant. Even watching TV. I don't watch TV, but pop around people's houses and stuff. You see the TV, and they're even pushing the all that stay indoors stuff and whatever, and
I was
on the screens and stuff in the corners,
just to back up as well some of what you're saying. I was surprised when I'm visiting relatives and seeing the advertising, because I don't watch television per se either. I don't watch a television box or
No.
shit like that.
Yeah.
So I don't see advertising. But being round at my relatives, they got the TV on. Of course, there's advertising in between the programming.
Yeah.
And I was surprised that nearly every advert had some kind of connection to COVID. So it was like, I can't remember, it's some car company talking about how, our cars are great and we're so glad you're all staying at home and staying healthy. And if you want to look at our stock, you can do it online. Yeah, they were trying to sell their online sales department because they knew people couldn't go to the showroom, kind of thing. But it was just the way it's geared towards, oh, we're so glad you're all at home staying healthy, because COVID. And it's a fucking advert for a car showroom.
Yeah, I just found it like I hadn't seen adverts myself for a while, and they hit you all of a sudden, as in you're standing there thinking this is a huge thing they're trying to push, and the psychology behind the ad, everything it's trying to sell, and that. And if you're sitting there sort of in this like, zoned out state watching TV like people sometimes do still, I think, and these adverts come on, this is just it's changing you. It's changing how you think. It's changing what you think. It's telling you what to think. It's telling you what to buy, for fuck's sake. So it's getting in there, isn't it? And the power of that, when I haven't seen it for a while, really hits home when you watch a TV set or you watch that programming again, just for a few, maybe an hour or two, or whatever, and you think, wow, this is just, you can see this repeated pattern constantly. How they've really perfected it with the mainstream over the years. They've got really good at it now, and they use their best minds on it. It's like,
effect.
yeah. Like you saw with Big Brother, it was like like I mentioned Big Brother back in the day. That was that social experiment sort of show where they put people in a house and give them silly tasks and see them all melt down and try and make a career out of it afterwards, kind of thing. That kind of bullshit. But now we're seeing it on like the scale of like, and we know this anyway with the stuff we've mentioned with experiments that have been done over the years, university stuff over the last 40, 50 years to, manipulate us and know what sort of techniques to use to do that via the media, via fear mainly. It seems fear is the good one, getting people to be obedient and follow this and follow that and accept that, this is the way it's going to be going forward. But by giving you false information on top of it, giving you not the whole picture, just giving you the snippets, but getting everybody drawn into that sort of mainstream news type feed. I don't watch it much. I know about Cummings, obviously, because if you're just skirting through the internet as you do, clicking on sites and stuff, you'll see this, again, pattern develop with what the mainstream are delivering to you. And it seems Dominic Cummings is the domineering story, of the day or the last few days, it seems.
It's been the headlines for the last couple of days, hasn't it?
Why? It's again, it's how they manipulate you and how they sell you there, how they want to steal your energy away and whatever doing. And, don't look over here.
They could be offering him up as a scapegoat as well, in the sense of maybe they set him up for this, or maybe they just taking opportunity, never let a good crisis go to waste kind of principle. But maybe when it was discovered what he was doing, they thought, well, throw him to the walls, basically, let the media rip him apart, let the public's anger build, and then we'll make a big show of how we're going to sack him or something like that. And in doing so, it will help cement the false evidence appearing real, that there is a dangerous pathogen around, so people like him should be made an example of. And
Yeah.
they can play this from different directions. They don't just have to let him off. If anything, doing what Bojo's been doing so far, which is basically trying to come up with some fucking excuse for him for some reason. That's
Yeah.
just going to make the public more and more angry. It's going to wake up more and more people to the hypocrisy and the fact that this is all a scamdemic. So
Yeah.
I don't
And
know.
how many have broken the rules in the last
Yeah,
few months?
he just happens to have been caught out. How many have been doing it and not been caught yet?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the scientists as well,
To answer a couple of things in
Mm.
the chat room, I just noticed. I'm sorry, guys. I haven't paid
Um,
while I was doing my monologue, like I often do. I didn't really see the chat room at all. Sorry. I will go back and read through it, and I want to say a really big, extra special thank you, extra special with sprinkles on. Just a big, major thank you, much love to the people who do the moderating, because I know at the moment there's been a lot of stupidness. So, they're having to deal with, whatever. I don't want to descend into it and keep fueling the bullshit, but thank you to those people who do the moderating, and thanks to the people who join in the chat. And even if you disagree with me, at least have some decorum to not be abusing each other or trying to abuse me or whoever is on the screen at the time.
mm.
That's not the way it's supposed to work. So thank you for people participating in what's going on rather than just trying to destroy shit. But there was a couple of things I noticed from Wayne H. Hello, Wayne. You make me wonder if you're the Wayne I know, because your Wayne H would be the Wayne H that I know. If it is, mate, cool to see you in the chat. Hello. Um, you asked about, is there no advertising on here or do you block it? Yeah, I have ad blocker in my browsers. I don't have it in Chrome just simply because it's fucking finicky to set up. But I use Firefox primarily with an ad blocker in it, so I don't see any advertising. And my channel is not monetized in any way, so there is no advertising on my videos. A few of the videos I think might have adverts on because they're other people's content that I've mirrored, and there's been copyright claims on them that YouTube won't accept my appeal against, so they end up slapping a fucking advert on them. But I'd highly recommend people get a browser that will allow you to make use of ad block so that you don't have to be subjected to all that shit. And some of it as well is things like when you're saying about seeing the headlines and the advertising and stuff like that. I was thinking as well,
Yeah.
you've got that kind of sideswipe advertising. Like the BBC says it doesn't advertise, but it does. It advertises itself. And when you look at the fact that the world service is a pay for service across the globe, they earn money selling programs to other countries. So they advertise themselves, even though supposedly the license payers are paying for something that's meant to be free to all those license payers. The BBC's generating money out of advertising as well. Thank you very much.
Has been for
And then
years and decades.
it's ever since, well,
Yeah.
certainly near enough since it started. But then
And
there's also,
getting funding from the EU as well back in the day. Yeah.
yeah.
So
But I was
yeah.
thinking as well, there's also that effect of like, now it's more website than newsprint. But unlike the Daily Mail website, even if you've got ad blocker installed so that you don't see the kind of splash adverts for commercial products, you still get subjected. Sorry, spitting on myself. You get subjected by that subliminal sort of archetypal advertising. That's all the little pictures down the side. So you're like reading a story about how somebody, a group of people have died because of some crap the government is doing, and down the side you get all these little pictures of half naked women, or stupid stories about like the boy who's got a beard on his head or something. It's like, that's advertising, but it's advertising that's done by themselves, supposedly for themselves, but it's used to sell you crappy ideas. Again, it's like going, I know I've used this example a few times recently, it's like going to the virtualized version of the Circus Maximus, where everything's on show, everything's part of the circus, everything's for display, for spectacle purposes, as Gary would say, society of the spectacle. Yeah, it's just become, even when you choose to avoid advertising, it's difficult to truly get away
Hmm.
from the subtle psychological manipulation that is basically advertising, marketing. They're trying
Yeah.
to sell you an idea.
Yeah.
It's good to be ignorant. It's like, no. It's not an advert for a product, but like when the guy in They Live puts the glasses on and he looks at the advert for a product, and instead of a product, he just sees the word obey. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, they use this medium to sell you ideas, not just products.
Yeah. Some behaviors. Consume is another one.
Yeah. Keep consuming, carry on, keep consuming.
Yeah.
Because the house of cards that a lot of the system is based on that circle of consumption. Yeah. And if we didn't have that circle of consumption, this is not an anti capitalist rant. I've got lots of other things I could say that would equal an anti capitalist rant. But in terms of the circle of consumption, if we didn't have that process going, there'd be a lot of people sat at home wondering what the fuck they do with their lives because they didn't have that little hamster wheel to run around.
Yeah.
I go to work so I can generate money so that I can go to the shops to buy products that are meant to make me feel better and feel satisfied. And then I go back to work and earn money so I can buy products that are meant to make me feel satisfied. And it just goes round and round and round. And they're probably, the work they're doing is involved with producing the products that they then buy that are meant to satisfy them. Yeah. There's a fractal effect to that wheel that they've got people running round.
Yeah. Well, they've driven it online as well more now because of
Yeah.
the shopping situation. You can't go out shopping and all that, and it's all been driven online.
Yeah.
To the virtual world, as you say,
Yeah.
a virtual gulag
And
that
you've
they
got,
could, they couldn't have pulled this off 10 years ago because people would have been unhappy.
mhm.
Now we've got this new technological,
Well, you think of
connections now.
that. Think of the example of like people feeling satisfaction by consuming virtual products now in the virtual world. So
Mhm.
rather than actually really buying a lamp for on your table, you buy a pixel of a lamp. You buy a virtual lamp in your little virtual room in whatever platform you're operating on, and you have the virtual lamp on your virtual table, and that
Yeah.
feeds you the sense of satisfaction. Yeah, this is that. It gets into a lot of deep esoteric bullshit. Well, not bullshit. I believe it's real, but I mean, in terms of
Mm.
the way they're selling it to people, is bullshit. But that kind of manipulation now, it's like they're using the COVID effect to try and deliberately kickstart it. It's almost like extreme withdrawal therapy. Again, fucking spitting me words. Like extreme withdrawal therapy for somebody who's addicted to a substance,
Yeah.
and something like alcohol. Imagine going through the cold turkeys to get over your alcohol addiction. What
Mhm.
they've done to most of the public is put them in that situation. It's like they cannot keep the wheels of the machine turning without creating an abject tyranny. So if you're really determined to carry on that direction, they're offering you the choice of either you accept that it's going to end up being a tyranny because that's the only way we can keep perpetuating it, or you're going to have to start working on yourself and realize that all those little consumer products and all those little trinkets and whatever are meaningless. That's it, meaningless. That world that you thought was your reality, those things that gave you that illusion of satisfaction, are not really worth anything. There might be a few items that you have that you could say are sentimental. They've got history between you and others, and really the value is in the memories you have that are created via that item that acts as a bridge between you and somebody else. So your memory is of you and the other person, and the item that you are sentimental about is the bridge that joins your two energies together. Yeah, but no, they put people into like the equivalent of cold turkey, system cold turkey.
Mm.
Yeah, for a lot of folks, that's why they can't cope with it. I feel. I know that this is a highly debatable part of the kind of like subject matter, but I think it's why a lot of people are freaking out in one way or another. And some of that freak out is that they're ending up, as the Voltaire quote goes, they're ending up being persuaded to believe absurdities. So the next step is, once they've got you to believe absurdities, they'll get you to accept atrocities. Yeah.
Mm.
Think about how they're treating the children if they go back to school. I consider that an atrocity because that is psychologically damaging a whole generation of children. It's not genocide per se in the definition because they're not physically killing them off, but they're killing a large part of those lives, those future lives that those children could have, should have had, are being killed now in this process. That's an atrocity. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people are struggling to face that kind of reality because it is a difficult thing to deal with. We're in a situation where the opportunity is there to do
Yeah.
something different. But going through this period of cold turkey, I could describe it as well as like a shamanic process where they're trying to draw out the poison. Yeah, this is an opportunity for you to purge yourself of that poison. There has to be a shadow opposite to help you through that process. The shadow opposite of you is that system. So they present themselves as this tyrannical nasty so that you have the opportunity to purge yourself of that poison, that bullshit that they've put into you.
Yeah. And what they
Yeah,
like to say, what they're doing to the future generation is traumatizing them more. Let's hope. I mean, I've heard stories where parents aren't going to be sending them back
yeah,
to put them because of all that
yeah. I've
as
heard that
well.
from
And
some of my relatives that they won't send them back to school now.
so we'll just see how things move forward with that, because how they're going to be able to do all this nonsense in a school, you know, and then
They're not going to.
without causing trauma, without causing, especially with the little ones. And it's funny how they're sending the smaller ones back first.
Yeah,
Isn't that funny?
yeah. They're easier to dominate, and they're the
Yeah.
ones who because of their development age, development stage at the age they are, what is done to them now will have a deep-seated effect such that it will last for the rest of their lives, most likely. Which
Yeah.
means they, just like Pol Pot did, just like Chairman Mao did with his little red book, they are what they want to do now to those young infant children at primary school and kindergarten or whatever is the beginning of the indoctrination of that new youth deliberately so they can start policing the adults around them and they will then grow up and create the new level of psychological enforcers. They will absolutely believe that there is a pathogen that's dangerous and everybody should stay away from each other and blah blah blah, yeah, the fucking kind of OCD effect.
Well, it doesn't work on all of them, thank goodness.
Yeah, this is one of the best things about kids. Sometimes kids go straight to the truth and they speak it directly because they don't get all the bullshit that adults tell each other. Yeah, they just say, "Oh, look, there's a such and such," and they just call it by what they see it as. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. And you teach the kids the truth, and to question and, good stuff, not, and if they are in the system, then they can just maneuver through it like we had to back in the day. God, that was, yeah. Not going back that far. I can't remember now. It's too long ago. But yeah, in the system of that sort of, what they've got now, and they're going to try and completely change that, like you say, going forward with the. And it's funny, like you say, they get the smaller ones back first, and I don't think they're going to open what you call secondary schools for the older kids until about the middle of June or something. So they're doing in this phased rollout. That's all I saw, which popped up a few days ago. But again, they're announcing stuff every day, which I'm not paying much attention to be honest. But I went out today, and there seemed to be an awful lot of people about. Where I was,
yeah.
there seemed to be people out.
There's quite a few people out around here now, and it's been
Which is
consistent like
good.
that now for at least a couple of weeks. It's
Yeah.
not far off being a normal day. There's still some of the shops are on the high street that aren't opening, and obviously places like restaurants and pubs, they're still not allowed to open. But other than that, yeah, I've seen a lot more people out and about. And I'm
Mm.
glad to say as well that recently, in the last several days, when I've been out, I've encountered less of that kind of situation like I had a few weeks ago where people were walking out into the road to go around you, because
Yeah.
they're so
Yeah.
scared of being too close.
Mm.
That's starting to ease off now as well, and people are much more. I don't want to say relaxed necessarily because that sounds a bit sort of like cliche or ignorant of what's
Yeah.
going on, but they're not. They're obviously not as afraid as they were. They're
Yeah.
obviously losing the belief in the bullshit.
Mm.
So they're becoming much more capable of coping with the fear within themselves has been given to them. The FEAR, false evidence of being real, that's been given to them by the system. They're processed and they're purging it, and they're going, well, actually, yeah, I can just walk straight past you. I ain't got to worry about that shit.
Mm.
And that's what I've been saying to people when I encounter that situation, because this is something that, like, somebody tried to bring it up as some kind of bullshit accusation, but when I've been out and about, I haven't been getting into people's faces, because to me that would be like what I was saying earlier about when you talk to coppers, there's no point getting all aggro with them because that just amplifies the situation. The same when I've been out and about talking to, the everyday people, the everyday folk, just talking to people if they happen to say anything or I say hello to them or whatever. I haven't been trying to, deliberately walk up to people just to make a point. Like, see, there's nothing to fear. I'll get close to you. I'll get close to you, because I don't know if I, especially, if I don't know the person, absolutely, yeah. I don't know where their mind is at in this situation. I don't know where they're at in their own process, where their spirit is. I don't know where their heart is in relation to all this shit. So I'm not going to dump on them by walking into their face and going, oh, see, I proved it to you. Because for them, they might experience that as an assault on their person because they're convinced of the fear. So if you do get too close on them, you just, that fear comes up in them, and you're not going to end up being able to help them in any way because you're just fanning the flames of their fear. So what I do is I just walk my direction. If somebody's coming towards me, I won't step into the road or any shit like that. I'll wait and see what they do. And if they want to avoid me, that's up to them. But if they don't, I'll say hello to them. I'll sort of, give them a bit of a nod as if to say, oh, yeah, cool, you're walking. Go for it, mate. Yeah, walk straight past me. I'm not worried. And I've said that multiple times to people. Usually it's in that kind of situation in the fucking shop, where somebody's realised they've forgotten something on the shelf where you have to walk against the arrow. And you can see the look on their face. They're sort of looking around like, am I allowed to? Am I and one guy's like, yeah, carry on. I ain't worried, mate. And they're saying it, the opportunity arises, then you offer them that possibility. So I'll say to him, yeah, don't worry, I'm not afraid. I know it's all okay. All the scamdemic is all bullshit. Carry on, mate. Walk past me if you want. I'm not afraid of you.
And don't forget, Cookie, the good information is spreading out there. People are beginning to talk to each other and tell the grandmother and tell the auntie and tell the family and spread news and say, look, don't be scared. Look at this or whatever. And this information's, what everybody's talking about, is getting out. Go and look at it properly. And the mainstream is just the real driver of all this fear. The whole thing. It's all the media are all behind it. Every media outlet, BBC, RT, all the ones in the States, they're all pushing for the same type of stuff. If you see what they're pushing on their headlines, all of it. I've got nothing for reality chat headline wise or news wise on Wednesday night because there's fuck all of it to talk about. It's just all a load of shit.
Yeah.
I ain't going to waste my fucking time on it.
It's becoming the joke.
Yeah.
The circus that it is. It's
Yeah.
like parodying itself now. It's got to the stage of it just is so obvious that it's become unbelievable because it's so obviously unbelievable. And that in and of itself becomes a crazy feedback loop cliche. Yeah. But the fact that it's got to that kind of stage, yet they're still pumping out this message that we need to have the lockdown, we need to
Yeah.
do our hands every 5 minutes, we need to stand on the little squares and whatever. That's why I think we're getting to that stage where the ice wall is creaking and cracking and it's starting to fully fall apart soon, and
I
more and
mean,
more people. And I'm not
yeah.
suggesting that means they're all of a sudden going to become, have the same attitude as me and think that, whatever, that all these conspiracy theory ideas and whatever. No, I just mean in the sense of they're going to see the bullshit they're being told and they're just going to say, fuck that, I've had enough now. I'm going back on with doing what I was doing before all this shit started.
Yeah.
Like Jeff earlier, he put up, I don't know if he put it up last night, I only saw it earlier, a video of the people in America going to the beach parties. And they're there, onto the beach. And then a while ago, there was a clip of the woman who sort of led everyone on the beach saying, yeah, come on, let's get back on the beach. And everybody joined in and they all just went on the beach. And the police stood there going, well, what do we do?
Exactly.
Yeah. They're losing control of the narrative.
Yeah.
And the narrative is becoming more obviously a joke. And that is revealing it. So it's beginning to like feed in on itself now. The revelation process is feeding in on itself now. So we're getting more energy from what they're trying to do than their system is benefiting from, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Like I say, it's good to see. Like I say, people are, seeing it for what it is now, or a bit more.
Yeah, that's a good place to wrap it up. And it's 2222. Yeah, so that's a good combination. That's a 4 power number. That's a grounding number. 4 often represents the earth, materialism, physical reality, because it's the 4 corners, which is nothing to do with squaring, being stuck in a square or whatever. There's a lot more to it than that. But anyway, the point is 2222 is a number 4 power number, a number of grounding. And today was a 7. And I was thinking about this yesterday when I was trying to think, like putting my notes down and thinking about what I was going to talk about. And I was thinking, okay, it's a 7. That again, yeah, it's a magic number, 7. 7 is the number of magic in some uses. But what's really magic about 7 is that there's only 3 more places till you reach 10, and 10 is the culmination. 10 is the return to the beginning of the cycle. So I know some of this is or certainly it sounds a little bit Kabbalistic, but it goes far older than that, folks. So don't believe their attempts to appropriate all knowledge and say that they were the ones that, it only belongs to them and that it's their God that's the one and blah, blah, whatever. 1 to 9 is the process of development. 9 is the highest you can get before the cycle begins again and it doubles itself. You get that fractal effect, which the whole of this reality is a fractal emanation of that singular reality of the Godhead.
9 months in, I was going to say 9 months of pregnancy, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
you'll find this all throughout reality. I think, although I think there's much more to it that he was talking about, but when Tesla talked about the 369, it is this fractal tripling effect that you can see in the number 6 sequence 1 to 9. Anyway, when you get to the 9, you then begin the cycle again, but it's a cycle where it doubles. So the power is doubled, the opportunities are doubled. Yeah, everything becomes a doubling. Everything becomes the 2, not just 1. Yeah, the Godhead split itself into 2 so that it could experience reality and come back to itself. Yes, maybe that's a bit of a deep hole to leave it on at the end, but hopefully people get why I'm bringing that up now. Today was a 7. You've only got 3 more paces. The power of the 3, the number 3, there's that 369 possibility or connection, fractal connection again, and then you get to culmination. So today was an opportunity to make major changes. And I think some of the stuff I talked about and some of the things that have happened over the last few days and today are going to help power. They're going to put energy into those changes. And hopefully something more, something good will grow out of it. I'm not going to, let a few people who are pissed at me for whatever reason shit all over stuff that's happening. No, we will carry on. We will be back again on Wednesday night on Peter's channel, the Reality Chat channel.
Yep.
Well, like you say, I know there it is.
Oh well, I probably might.
Headline, but
well, I might have. I don't know. If anyone's, I'll probably get links and we'll have a look. But it is
we'll
what it is, guys. It's
we'll see what's happening.
We might troll through some shite. We might just be able to, maybe manage it.
I got a little flying visitor coming to look at my light.
Thanks anyway, Cookie. Thanks for tonight as well. Cheers.
So, and thanks for joining in. We'll be back on Wednesday night. Reality Chat channel. Steve Tagoose will be on Thursday night, hopefully, doing his mystery show on the Steve Tagoose channel. And please check out the other channels. As I've said many times in the past, although there's some people I don't like the content that they do, I don't look at their channels, and I talk about how I think they're not necessarily helpful. And then there's some people who I don't necessarily agree with, but they're doing their thing, I'm doing my thing. Who you choose to go and listen to or tune into or join in with, participate with, is up to you. I've said this again and again and again over the years. Think for yourself. Look at the information for yourself. Please do not just expect people to spoon feed you. Please do not try to do a straw man argument on me, claiming that I'm trying to be your leader. I'm not. Don't project that at me. You are your own leader. You don't need a talking head on a screen to be your new leader and just replace the bullshit politicians that you used to look at on the TV or in the newspapers. That's what's going on here, folks. You realizing your own authority. So yes, we'll be back again next Monday, hopefully. Be careful out there, folks. Don't believe all the bullshit. Don't believe the hype. And, get on with it. They're losing control. They're in damage control. They can't keep up the bullshit any longer. So we're going to start seeing more and more this kind of craziness and silliness happening. So more and more you can sit back and go, yeah, it's fucking now. The bullshit is over. It is over. This stuff is happening now. Feel that energy. So thanks again, folks. Catch you all soon. Catches. Click the